Chapter 25, Guess Why is Ye Shuang's Photogenicity a Cheap Commodity?
In today's society, knowledge is a cheap but valuable commodity. The reason why it is valuable could not be clearer. Everyone knows that education is the great equalizer, right? But why is it cheap? Because knowledge has become very easily accessible. A few decades ago, people had to go to the library to learn from books, but today everything is at your fingertips. As long as you are interested, you can acquire this knowledge through many different channels with the tap of your finger. Much esoteric knowledge has become as common as mushrooms after a spring rain. However, even with such accessible, readily available channels, it did not mean that everyone would be willing to take advantage of them. An example would be the golden ratio. A television host knows this stuff. It's common knowledge in the entertainment business. Refraction and reflection of light were commonly taught in high school physics classes, but who would actively combine and use these theories in everyday life? After all, real life is different from written tests, where variables are given in questions for you to calculate. Therefore, this ability to discern and quantify all the necessary variables and calculate them like a supercomputer in a few minutes was the really scary part of Ye Shuang. Anyway, after learning that Ye Shuang's photogenics was totally scientific, and not because he was just lucky or natural, even after knowing his secrets, it was not something that could be reproduced by other people. Therefore, after the test was over, Ye Shuang received complicated looks from the film crew. It was not unlike the hate-filled looks of commoners when they looked at the top students at school. "I heard you made a name for yourself on the set today." After the filming ended, the big boss, Feng Mo, finally reappeared. He was there to pick up his sister and planned to take Ye Shuang out for a meal. After meeting with the director, he was naturally made aware of Ye Shuang's supernatural performance. Even Feng Mo, who had already been exposed to Ye Shuang's insane talent, was still properly impressed when the director described the incident to him. After his car left the parking lot, Feng Mo glanced at the rearview mirror as he carefully drove into the traffic. He commented lightly, "I assumed that physically impressive individuals like you wouldn't have time for cultural and scientific courses. These days, people with master's degrees and doctorates fill the streets. If I didn't have an understanding of elementary or high school physics, how could I survive?" Ye Shuang answered humbly. Feng Mo didn't know how to answer. Even if it was true that this involved a high school level of physics, this level of application might not even be attainable by masters and doctors. After considering the many strange incidents that had occurred after meeting Ye Shuang, Feng Mo could only laugh while shaking his head. "By the way, you didn't tell me what field you are in. Earlier, the director mentioned that if you enter the entertainment business, you will definitely have a great future. He told me to ask you to consider a future in this field." What Feng Mo said was an understatement. The director was close to writing a script himself for Ye Shuang to star in, all to convince him to join this field. Of course, Feng Mo didn't promise anything to the director. After all, he wasn't close enough to Ye Shuang yet to promise something like that, and maybe his new friend didn't want to pursue a career in the spotlight. Or maybe Ye Shuang already had an extraordinary occupation. Feng Mo didn't believe that an extraordinary person like Ye Shuang would have a superordinary 9-to-5 job. However, Ye Shuang was stuck by the question. She scratched her head but couldn't come up with a solid answer, so like most women, she threw the question back at him. "Yes." Ye Shuang didn't notice the black lines covering Feng Mo's face. She turned to look out the window, and when she saw the bus station that was not far away, she asked the driver to stop. "Wait, drop me off here, I'll take the bus home." Feng Mo glanced at the rearview mirror in shock. "Why are you in a hurry to get home? Come join us for lunch, consider it a chance for you and Fei Fei to get to know each other. After lunch, I'll take you home." Even Feng Fei was trying to say something, but she had apparently been ordered to keep quiet by Feng Mo, so she quickly clamped her lips open. Frustrated, she could only sneak a glance at her brother to signify her displeasure. Ye Shuang chuckled bitterly. If she had her choice, of course, she would rather join the pair of rich siblings than go home to face her incredibly curious uncle and grandmother, but meeting the parents was an inevitable ritual in any Chinese relationship. Of course, if she had insisted on following Feng Mo and Feng Fei, it would have been easy, and her family would not have said anything to summon her home. However, this would leave a very bad impression on the two elders, making her position when she was in her male form very awkward around the Luo family. It's not that I don't want to share a meal with Brother Feng, but my fiancé's elders are visiting Sanlin City today. They came here on purpose to see their future son-in-law, so I have no choice. Ye Shuang laughed self-deprecatingly. She had adjusted quite quickly to the fact that she was her own fiancé. Ye Shuang didn't notice that when she mentioned the word fiancé, Feng Fei's expression, who was sitting in the passenger seat, changed from a pout to shock. Although Ye Shuang didn't notice it, it was impossible for Feng Mo not to notice it. Her heart could not help but break for her sister. Feng Mo had planned to make her sister understand that Ye Shuang couldn't be interested in her or perhaps wait for her interest to fade after this publicity. Yet, who would have thought that the news that Ye Shuang was on his way to meet his future in-laws would come so suddenly? Given the circumstances, Feng Mo didn't think it was appropriate to have Ye Shuang stay, so he hastily dropped him off. When only the two siblings remained in the car, it became incredibly quiet. After a while, it was Feng Mo who broke the awkward silence. Counting today, you've only seen him twice. Are you sure you like him? Even though Feng Fei didn't confide in him, it hadn't escaped Feng Mo's eyes. Feng Mo didn't want to point it out for fear that it would become awkward like now, but under the circumstances, it had to be done. He was afraid that his sister would do something stupid because she couldn't put her mind in a good state and deal with this matter logically. Who said I like her? Feng Fei replied as if by reflex. She frowned haughtily. I just wanted to thank him for helping me last time. Then that's fine. Feng Mo glanced at him as he started the car again. I think Ye Shuang is not a bad friend, so whenever our family has interactions with him in the future, please don't make things difficult for him on purpose. He was perfectly clear with this message. He intended to keep this friend. If it made Feng Fei uncomfortable, then she was free to ignore Ye Shuang, but if possible, he wished that she could also treat him as a friend and only as a friend. Feng Mo had an eye for talent. He thought that befriending Ye Shuang would only be a good thing for them. Of course, the prerequisite was that Feng Fei would not be upset because of Ye Shuang. Feng Fei bit her lips and let out a grunt before becoming completely silent.
Chapter 26, Family of Spies: How to Deal with a Spy Family in Sanlin City.
Mother Yi did not disappoint her young self, who was the central power of the Luo family. Although they still haven't found the perfect solution to deal with Grandma Luo and Uncle Luo, at least Ye Shuang received a secret call from Mother Yi before she arrived home to help Ye Shuang find some guidelines to deal with her young person family. According to Mother Yi, it was simple. At the end of the day, Ye Shuang was part of the family, so they wouldn't bother her too much no matter what. It was unlikely that they would bring up too many unsavory things about the female Ye Shuang before the male Ye Shuang. Before they arrived, the Yi family had made all the necessary preparations, like informing Uncle Luo that their Ye Shuang would be away from home due to work for those few days. The guests might feel offended by this, but they would forgive Ye Shuang after she turned into a woman and sincerely apologized. It would be even easier for the male Ye Shuang. As long as he behaved politely during the meal and tried his best to improve the level of affection with the Luo parents, everything would be fine. It should be easy considering the appearances and how Ye Shuang already knew his grandmother and uncle. In the end, they were just curious. They weren't there to conduct an investigation, so they wouldn't push too far. This visit was not as important as the Yi family made it out to be. They only saw it that way because of their tense nerves. Anyway, Mother Ye's guideline was, be as obedient as possible, the Luo family will only be embarrassed that the Ye Shuang woman is not there to accompany you to meet the family, so you have that advantage over them. If there are any problems, carry them over to the Ye Shuang woman. This identity has enough positive reputation points to take some losses, at least compared to the Ye Shuang man who has a neutral reputation. After all, once the reputation points plunge into the negative, it will be difficult to return to the positive. With Mother Ye's consoling phone call, Ye Shuang didn't feel as tense as before. She took a deep breath as she prepared to enter this raid called Home Sweet Home. After tapping her fingers on her family's front door, she was quickly opened by Grandma Luo, who greeted her with unbridled passion. In comparison, Uncle Luo was rather reserved. Ye Shuang was shocked when she was let inside and asked to sit on the sofa. After chatting with Grandma Luo and Uncle Luo for a while, she pretended to need some water to escape to the kitchen because she was frightened by Grandma Luo's kindness and excessive hospitality towards her. "Mom, something is wrong." Ye Shuang lowered her voice as she exchanged information with Mother Yi, who was drowning out their conversation with the sound of the juice blender. "I feel like all my previous experience wouldn't be useful today. When has Grandma ever been so openly cordial to me? And Uncle acted too official. It's my fault." Mother Yi sighed dejectedly. "I assumed that they would treat you like a family member, so I guess I miscalculated. This is the diplomacy your grandmother and uncle assume when dealing with a stranger. Maybe it's because they haven't heard of you before. Anyway, they will try to get as much information about you as possible during the short time they stay in Sanlin City." Ye Shuang was so scared that the cutting knife almost slipped out of her fingers. "Wait, Mom, didn't you ever tell me that you came from a family of spies?" "What nonsense!" Father Yi, who had also wandered into the kitchen, interjected with a glare at Ye Shuang. "This is a trial for any newlywed entering the family. You have to understand that so many years ago, when it was my turn." "Never mind, this is not the time to remember. Anyway, your mother was only half right, you are now a half stranger, so it is normal that they want to know more about you. Be prepared to be asked questions about your family background and your views on marriage, for example." If it weren't for the lack of time, Father Yi would have given Ye Shuang an intensive lesson on how he had passed this test all those years ago. Family history. Ye Shuang looked at her parents with difficulty. If she said she was an orphan, it sounded like she was cursing Father Yi and Mother Yi, but she didn't think she had the ability to come up with a perfect backstory in such a short time. "You're an orphan, and that's it," declared Father Yi with a shrug. "I even thought about your profession. Just tell them that you are studying for your graduate degree. After all, with your current understanding of technical knowledge, it wouldn't be hard to get one later." Father Yi was a cunning fox himself. If Ye Shuang was a researcher, then it wouldn't be weird for him to disappear from time to time to attend to his research business. Moreover, this meant that Grandma Luo wouldn't push them to get married since Ye Shuang didn't have a stable profession yet. After all, a master's or doctoral student was not guaranteed a career after leaving school. In fact, many of these educated people were languishing in their parents' basement. However, this proved Ye Shuang's intellectuality, so it would be rude to force him to separate from their Ye Shuang. Even if a researcher had no guarantee of a career, he was at least better than many others who had even less guarantee. While Ye Shuang was receiving a private lesson from Father Yi in the kitchen, in the living room, Grandma Luo and Uncle Luo were in the middle of their own private evaluation. "This child is too beautiful," Grandma Luo observed with concern. In her memory, her granddaughter, at most, could only be considered delicate, so she couldn't help but worry about their future. Even if he remains loyal to Shuang, there's no guarantee that those butterflies and wild bees won't circle around him. Our poor Shuang. The spy, Uncle Luo, nodded and whispered back, "Mom, you are right, but let's not underestimate Big Sister. If the boy has such a weak character, she would have already intervened. Let's not judge him with our prejudices. After all, it's not his fault that he was born with such a beautiful appearance."
Chapter 27, A disguised test. Why would someone so handsome pursue a relative of theirs?
Little brother Ye, who was returning from running an errand, was speechless when he heard this secret conversation between the two Luo family spies. Sure, he was slightly envious of the giant charm boost Ye Shuang had received, but when he heard someone using Ye Shuang's good looks as a detraction, he felt that the world had become quite strange. Xiao Feng, are you back? Grandma Luo noticed little brother Yi standing at the door. With a gleam in her eyes, she beckoned him over. Come over here, tell your grandmother, how long has your sister been with that boy? Since he had been named, little brother Yi had no choice but to point to the cartoon monkey picture on his shirt and shrug. How would I know? I've always adopted an attitude of not seeing evil, not hearing evil, and not talking about evil concerning my sister. Uncle Luo smacked him on the back of the head. You could care a little more about your own sister. Before they arrived, Grandma Luo and Uncle Luo had gathered some basic information from Father Yi and Mother Yi. They were pretty satisfied with what they had heard, so they didn't think much about this future addition to their family. However, when they saw Ye Shuang in person, they finally realized what Mother Yi meant when she said he was a rather handsome young man. If Ye Shuang had a normal charm level, then they would not have said anything. After all, no one would like to pollute their eyes with ugly objects. However, if the charm level had exceeded the normal human level, then things would be different. First and foremost, why would someone so beautiful pursue this relative? Since Mother Yi knew that the two, Ye Shuang, were one and the same, she was not very careful with the more handsome Ye Shuang, but Grandma Luo and Uncle Luo did not see it that way. When Ye Shuang was helping in the kitchen, the two elders of the Luo family captured little brother Yi to interrogate him to get information about Ye Shuang. Fortunately, the Yi family had prepared in advance, so little brother Yi did not let anything dangerous slip out for their operation. Noticing the concern on his grandmother's and uncle's faces, for the sake of everyone, little brother Yi silenced his conscience to praise his son, from his talents to his appearance and education. He left no stone unturned and no quality unpraised until Mother Yi came to his rescue and called him into the kitchen. It was then that little brother Yi left feeling accomplished. Grandma Yi and Uncle Yi, who stayed in the living room, shared a look, and they became even more worried. To be able to blind Xiao Feng so loyally by his side that he wouldn't say a wrong word about him, the boy is even more calculating and manipulative than we thought, Uncle Luo observed worriedly. He thought his sister's family of 4 had already been knocked out. Grandma Luo, however, was at least willing to be optimistic. It's still too early to come to that conclusion. Even though this boy seems to be a little too good to be true, that doesn't mean that he isn't sincere towards our Shuang. After all, if he's really plotting, what's in it for him? Money? Looks? Shuang has neither, so it could be true love. Uncle Luo. The Yi family hadn't considered the possibility that Ye Shuang's overly impressive qualities might worry Grandma Luo and Uncle Luo. After finishing the dinner they thought was successful, they talked until the night darkened, until it was time for Grandma Luo to rest. Mother Yi naturally shared a room with her mother, Father Yi went to bed with Uncle Luo, little brother Yi stayed in his room, and Ye Shuang. Ye Shuang was forced to leave her home and check into a hotel. Ye Shuang got up to apologize. When she was at the door, putting on her shoes, she was called by Grandma Luo. Xiao Yi. Grandma Luo didn't think it was appropriate to call Xiao Shuang, it would confuse her with her current granddaughter. If you're free tomorrow, would you mind accompanying your grandmother for a walk around the city? At that moment, Ye Shuang seemed to discern a flash of cruelty in her grandmother's kind face. She replied, Tomorrow morning, I have to help my friend shoot a commercial, but I'm free after that. This was her own grandmother, so how could she say no? Ye Shuang felt a heavy weight on her shoulders, she knew that the walk was a disguised test, but she couldn't say no. Grandma Luo nodded her head with satisfaction. Under Mother Ye's worried gaze, Grandma Luo finally allowed her to leave. After leaving the residential area, a night breeze came up and Ye Shuang felt a chill on her forehead. She wiped it off and realized that it was covered in sweat. This had been even more nerve-wracking than being called into the principal's office. After thinking about it, Ye Shuang took out her phone to make a call. She needed to double-check the schedule with Feng Imo. Brother Feng, you mentioned that the commercial will capture images of a couple's living situation, but will there be sunset or night scenes? Feng Imo was watching the television with a sulky Feng Fei. When he saw that it was Ye Shuang calling him, he glanced at Feng Fei before getting up to go to his own room to answer the call. Understanding the unspoken, Feng Imo replied, "There are some sunset scenes, but with a little post-editing, we can turn down the lights and shoot those scenes in daylight." "Why? Do you have any other commitments tomorrow?" Feng Imo did not reveal the fact that this would require an additional cost on his part, as he did not think it was something worth pointing out. After that, he heard his new friend's rather annoyed voice on the phone. It's nothing but. I promised to accompany my girlfriend's grandmother on a city tour, and since I'm leaving the day after tomorrow, it must be tomorrow afternoon." Feng Imo also felt slightly offended. If he had known that this was the reason, he would have refused the request. After all, why would he burden himself with a higher expense to create time for his sister's crush to curry favor with his in-laws? "But, if it's too much trouble, I'll go back to the city again next Thursday. How about finishing these afternoon and night scenes then?" Ye Shuang thought that troubling the boss with her own private problems was a bit too much, so she proposed another solution. Feng Imo remained silent as he thought about it. "How about this, we cancel tomorrow's shooting and move it directly to next Thursday instead?" Once the details were settled, they chatted for a bit longer before ending the call. When he came out of his room, Feng Imo looked up to see his sister's eyes fixed on him. "Big brother, is that work calling you?" "No." Feng Imo smiled. He sat back down on the sofa and said, "Tomorrow, I have something else to do, so the commercial shooting will be postponed until next Thursday." Feng Fei, who took this as a kindness from her big brother, glanced at him before going back to watching TV. She pouted and replied, "Of course, it's your commercial after all."